Hello, everyone. Welcome to this masterclass. So today we'll discuss how to successfully launch new franchises. I have the pleasure of co-hosting this session with Brian Luciani, Chief Growth Officer and Venture Partner at SMB Franchise Advisors. And Brian, our guest speakers, and I are really happy to share this time with you today. So we all know that for franchisors, lead generation, network growth are always top of mind. It's a huge focus, but finding the right candidate is only half the battle, I'll say. So the next step is also very critical. I'm talking about onboarding because honestly, there's no point in putting a lot of effort and money into recruitment if you're just filling a leaking bucket. So if you don't onboard your franchises properly and ensure the success from day one, you're losing a lot of value. So today we're going to discuss how to make sure your new launches are built to last. Over 50 franchisors have registered for this masterclass. So I think it really shows that this is a hot topic for you. And to discuss this, we have fantastic speakers with us today. And once again, we have both US and UK franchisors joining us to share their experiences on the topic. They represent also networks of various sizes and sectors, which I think will make the discussion even more interesting. So our goal today is to provide a sessions where franchisors share their knowledge and real-world feedback on launching new franchises, whether they're good or bad experiences. I think we can learn from both, and also benefit from Brian's expertise as he has a great experience with many franchise networks. So my hope is that you leave today having learned something new with fresh perspective for your own network and concrete actions to successfully launch new franchises. So the agenda today will just take a few minutes for the speakers to introduce themselves, and then we'll go into the core discussions and let our guest speakers chat about the topic, and we'll keep some time at the end to answer your questions. So there's a chat box on the right. Please feel free to say hello and send your questions as we go. We'll try to answer as many as possible at the end of the session. So maybe we'll just take a few minutes for our speakers to and Brian to introduce themselves. So maybe Anna, you can start.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for tuning in today or watching on replay. My name's Anna Neville. I am the CEO and original founder of Kidslingo. We're a UK-based franchise with about 80 franchisees spread out across the nations. We teach French and Spanish to young children. So predominantly we go into schools and nurseries and do that between the 0 to 11 age range, but also out in the community as well. We're very much a lifestyle franchise, I guess people would class us as. So we're dealing with owner-operator franchisees the vast majority of the time. So as well as running the business, our franchisees are also running a lot of classes. So they're very, very busy people who need lots of onboarding support and then ongoing support as we go through.
Okay, thanks, Anna. John?
Hey, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is John Sieber, and out of all the guests, I probably have the most imposter syndrome because we are the newest franchisor. I co-founded Storytime Chess in 2011, and our mission is to extend the profound benefits of chess to all children. In 2011, we discovered that chess was a game that was reserved mainly for math-inclined little boys, and through silly stories and characters, empathetic characters, we have been able to extend the benefits of chess, critical thinking, executive function, the social emotional skills to all children. And so we focus on doing group lessons in schools, community centers, libraries, in which tutors with no chess experience will walk through our proprietary curriculum and tell silly stories and physical movement and adventures to allow children starting at the age of 3 to 7 to experience those great benefits.
Awesome.
We got into franchising largely because we started as an owned and operated business and discovered the operational complexities and the desire for a local operator to be present, and launched the franchise business in 2025. And off to the races, and excited to share whatever knowledge we have.
Thanks, John. Calvin?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, guys. My name is Calvin Freatman. I'm the co-owner and CEO of Cascadia Pizza Co. We're a wood-fired pizza franchise. We do food trucks, brick and mortars. We cater a lot of events. We currently have open and operating units in Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, and most recently, as of the last few months, Arizona. Really passionate about meeting people where they're at, being a hospitality brand in QSR, quick service restaurants, doing more with lesser square footage, lesser overhead, breathing life into our franchise partners and just having radical support of them. Franchising super fun. We never intended to get into franchising. We opened and operated a few restaurants before franchising. It was really my good friend and our first franchisee, Rafi, who came to us. He was a local franchise owner and said, "Hey, I want to franchise your brand." It took us a long time, and thankfully the help of people like Brian to get us on the franchise path, and really happy we did so. And we're going to be opening up Texas over the next few months as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Calvin. Brian?
Yeah, thank you. Hard acts to follow as a simple moderator, but thank you all for being here, and especially to the audience. I'm Brian Luciani. I'm the Chief Growth Officer and a venture partner at SMB Franchise Advisors, where we help brands launch into franchising when you're just starting out, have those few corporate locations like Cascadia Pizza or like Storytime Chess, and then really build your franchise program and launch with those initial franchisees, building those systems and processes to support those people as well, from our amazing team of over 20 now. And then also growing franchisors, right? When you get to a point where things change and you iterate on that process, or you're looking for a different profile of franchisee, and how we find those people and continue to grow the brand as you have also grown your business. So excited to have a conversation across all these different categories and sort of expectations of your franchisees, and certainly to lead the conversation today.
Thank you, Brian. So I'm Laurent Leclerc. I'm the co-founder of Smappen. It's a franchise territory mapping software currently used by over 500 franchise brands, mainly in Europe and North America. Brian, I'll hand it over to you to introduce the topic and lead the discussion now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I think we've touched on a little bit of background for how people started franchising or why they came into franchising. And I think what a natural sort of segue is to that, right? Where you're growing your brand, you want to see your brand out there more, but you don't want to do it all yourself. Let's talk a little bit about what a successful launch looks like. Those first, 60, 90, 180 days. I'm going to maybe start from the bottom and work my way up as far as current franchisee count for this one. So John, why don't I go to you, where we've got one rockstar franchisee, many more in the pipeline. How do we get this person over 60, 90, 180 days ramping their business?
Oh man, putting me in the hot seat first. Thanks, Brian. So we look at it in kind of 4 segments, and we divide it from day 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60, 90 plus. Day 0 through 30 is all about building a super strong foundation. Obviously, it's helping them get the business set up and the insurance and the payroll, but really helping the franchisees build that muscle of sales, outreach, and build that engine. After that, days 30 through 60, we're looking for the first bit of revenue coming in. How can we form those school partnerships? We're a brand that goes into schools, and how can we start getting those demo days so our product is in front of clients? Days 60 through 90, the keyword would be validation. Can we get consistent weekly classes running? Can we start building out the employees and getting a tutor base hired? And then day 90 plus is all about scale for us. How can we start building multiple school relationships? How can we build a positive enrollment funnel from those demo days? And how can we start hitting our targeted revenue? So all that being said, success isn't just revenue. It's really starting at the foundation and building a repeatable sales engine of school to demo to enrollment, and then scaling that process.
Yeah, no, that's super insightful. And sandwiched right between our 2 service-driven brands is a product-driven brand. So Cal, when you think about these folks and they're planning 60, 90, 180 sort of ramp, building out a facility, right? Let's talk a little bit about what you guys look for.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so critical on day one of opening the restaurant. A lot of our training is built on the 30, 60, 90 before we launch. And then we definitely have 30, 60, 90 check-in. We try to have a representative from our team be on site at least once. We're there post open a week, and then we're really hitting it with a physical site visit at 30, 60, 90. But so much of it is predicated around good training at our wood-fired university. So that's actually when pre-launch, pre-brick and mortar, pre-restaurant opening, our franchise partners are going to come out to us in Western Washington. They're going to physically train on a wood-fired oven. They're going to work in our stores and really see firsthand just how we want to operate. And there's so much nuance to restaurants. We never hit it perfectly. There's maybe 150, 200 things that have to go right for it to be perfect. But we focus on the big building blocks, really reinstilling core principles, operating values. And then we really try to do that before launch. And then just being really intentional about revenue generation, getting our product into as many hands as possible. We believe, if somebody has our pizza once, there's a really good chance we can convert them to be a customer for life. And as a new emerging franchisor and trying to gain market, getting our product into as many hands as possible. Then being really intentional up. And so much of it is catering. Are they a good back-end operator or a good front-end operator? What side of the business do they need more help? And try to cater it to that individual partner and just make it fun.
No, that's great. And Anna, thinking about getting to, more than the tens of franchisees, right? As you've sort of seen these cycles through, what do you think about in a sort of 60, 90 day, maybe 30, 60, 90, maybe it does go out to 180, right? Kind of a launch plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's the early days which are really critical, isn't it? Because that just sets the foundation, sets that pathway for what that franchisee wants to achieve and how you're going to support them to do that. So I guess our starting point is always the franchisee. So our onboarding program, our early days are all very franchisee centric, and obviously people are different, so that does vary by individual. And I think the core success really starts with setting those objectives and those milestones right from the offset. And we all know objectives can change and milestones can change along the way. But if you don't start with that, then, you're floundering in the dark. So I think, we really help the franchisees review their local area, but also from the personal side, their personal aspirations. How much time have they got? They might be doing this alongside being a mum with young children. They might be doing it alongside something else. They might not. It might be the only thing that they do. So it's really looking at those sort of personal background, personal aspirations, and their time availability. Time is absolute money in our game, and it's being efficient with time, fitting as many classes as possible, as much marketing as possible within those available hours. So really, it's very much looking at their personal circumstances. And then we have a sort of 7-point onboarding plan. And that's the very early days. That's, pre 30 days. That's really, like first week in. And that's really about preparing them to get to day one. And that's a combination of digital training, face-to-face. We haven't quite got the wood-fired university, but we've got the Kidslingo University. Everyone comes here. We get a bit silly. We're practicing the classes as well as going through more of the theoretical side as well. We try and keep the theoretical side to the online training so people can do that in their own time, and then use that precious time we have together to really bring the brand to life, really get them to live and breathe what we're all about, and then the practical application of what we do. And I think that can almost be the challenge of what we do, because we work with parents, we work with schools, we work with nurseries. We've got about 20 different revenue channels within that. So the first challenge is looking at, okay, what are we going after here? And I think there's that immediate desire to go out after everything because it's all sounding really exciting. But that causes problems because it means you maybe don't have the right focus initially. And also it can lead to quite a lot of overwhelm. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges in the early days as well is the overwhelm. Most of our franchisees aren't business people when they start. They might have come from a teaching background. They might have all sorts of different backgrounds, but they're not business people. So, it is really important to guide them through that process step by step, so they really understand, and build the different steps of that foundation before they're ready to fly. And we want some quick wins, like any of our businesses. People need to feel successful quickly, don't they? They want to get that first rung on the ladder. They want to start climbing up. So, we're really focusing with them. Okay, right. in terms of your objectives, your aspirations, what's the low hanging fruit? What can we go after first that's going to get those business wins in, and then really sort of, grow and develop from then onwards. I could probably talk forever, sorry, about our 7-stage onboarding, but that's the sort of, that's really the fundamental approach. It is obviously set. There is a set process we go through, but we try and put the franchisee at the center of what we're doing and making sure that what we're helping them with, what we're guiding them towards, what we're supporting them with, it very much matches their own personal aspirations of where they want to take the business.
Brian, am I allowed to ask questions?
Of course.
Anna,
Sure.
you mentioned the opportunities for 20 different revenue streams, whether it's parents or schools. How do you work with a franchisee to prioritize those revenue streams? Is it based off their location, or is that something that you're coming in with a strong recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, John, and it's a question I get asked all the time. I think there's a number of different factors. I think personal experience and personal aspirations come into it. So, we cover that, 0 to 11 age range. Some people don't feel comfortable with like the really little ones. Some people don't feel that comfortable with the older ones. So you've got to be driven to a certain degree of, okay, let's get in my comfort zone first of all, and then you can spread out. So I think there's looking at that in terms of their experience, their location as well. We do see regional differences of the types of opportunities and the market demand that's out there. Shout out to Smappen. The tools on Smappen have been really informative, I think, for our franchisees in terms of pinpointing where all the nurseries are in their area, pinpointing where all the schools are in their area. That's been a very, very useful visual tool for us to use as part of the onboarding to go, look, these are the clusters here. If you've got a really big geographical area, if you live in a very rural location, you've got to really think about how you're planning out your day, your time with those clusters of schools and nurseries, which are predominant customers. Different if you're in the big cities, because it's relatively easy to get between all of those. But I think, it's everyone gets all very excited and goes, I want to go after all of those, and you can't do that, can you, John? You've got to go, right, okay, what are these steps along the process? So I think we look at their area, we look at their personal aspirations, we look at what inquiries we've already had in, because we do often have pre-existing inquiries in from those customers, and we say at that time, oh, sorry, we haven't got anyone in your area at the moment, but as soon as we have, there's an immediate hot lead there for them, so nobody's going to turn down a hot lead there. So it's really a combination of those different factors, I think.
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you.
That's a really good segue into something else that I've been thinking about. And Anna, I might start with you and now work backwards on our unit count perspective, because the most common mistakes could be something like trying to do everything at once, could be not really understanding the market that you're committed to and supposed to grow, and you thought it was one thing but it's actually another. And what are some of those common mistakes you find new franchisees make early? And when you can, from your perspective as a franchisor, how do you proactively sort of prevent those or attempt to get in front of those with surfacing patterns and providing best practices?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be really open and honest with people. And I think they want to go after the latest shiny thing, and you have to be honest and say, look, that's great. That type of class might be brilliant for visibility, but it's not going to generate the revenue, and it's certainly not going to generate the profit. So I think it's making sure they're going into whatever type of class they're going to run with their eyes wide open, and what they're trying to achieve and what we're trying to achieve as a business out of it. Our community classes, for example, in a lot of locations, not all because we have those variations, but they are absolutely brilliant for getting out there. They're brilliant for social media. They're great for visibility. But they're really hard work, and they don't often make huge amounts of money. So it's really making sure that we as a franchisor, as a head office, are just sharing all that experience and sharing that knowledge with people, but also have, things do change. Just because something has always been like that doesn't mean there aren't ways to break through. So it's looking at what's gone before. It's trying to look at the marketplace and the trends that are out there, and plotting that course as we go along. But I think you're absolutely right that the biggest mistake is trying to do everything at the same time too quickly, and losing focus, and just being split in too many different directions, and wasting that precious resource of time, and not getting the quick wins, which build the confidence and get that foothold.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that resonates. Cal, I want to go to you, especially again, if we're wasting, time, we're also wasting product, right? There's pizza that's got to go out the door, and there's a lot of training that goes into that, obviously, that the franchisee bears the cost of. So how do you think about, preventing or seeing some of those patterns where there's some mistake that, we can get ahead of in future training as a franchisor?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're continuing to refine the training process. And I think so much of that is you get a group through training, and then, oh man, I learned something new from every one of our trainings of how we should better cater it or craft it better to those individuals. But I really want to echo Anna's thoughts, because I think honesty is at the core of a good franchisor-franchisee relationship. And opening a restaurant is hard, and it's laborious, and it can be long hours. And I think all of those conversations in preparation for getting them ready for launch day really have to occur several months in advance. And it requires honesty of, hey, look, we're going to open, and these are the 3 possible scenarios, post opening. And we have levers to pull based on every one of those scenarios, but we need the positivity, and we have to have good energy, and there has to be internal belief, right? As any up and coming emerging business owner knows, like, you really have to have that internally and that fortitude, because you will have slow days, and it takes a lot of customers trying your product and falling in love with it to reach what you want to reach. And, we see the biggest sales jump occur after that 3rd month, when people have had time to really try it, dissect it, understand it. And I really just think honesty on the front end. And for us, the separation is really in the preparation. And so getting the battle tested at Wood-Fired University, and working with that franchisee on, what they struggle with, whether it's back end or front end operations training, and trying to fill in some of those gaps the best we can beforehand to prevent some of those difficult conversations after launch.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. John, I know you guys put people on planes, you go and really see the territory. Talk a little bit about, where you guys have seen some of these things, even as you're building, right, the best practices for the next crop of franchisees.
Yeah, I mean, we are incredibly blessed. Our first franchisee in the territories they operate, they are absolute rock stars. So a lot of this is coming from when we were trying to scale through owned and operated and working with partners prior to franchising the business. But the main issues that the mistakes that we see are in one of 3 buckets: sales, hiring staff, or just not following the system. With sales, you see people, a mistake they make is wanting to get everything perfect. I want the perfect CRM, the perfect email addresses, and I want it to be perfectly organized with the right marketing materials. And at some point, you just got to ship the product. Just go knock on the door, shake some hands, start telling people at the park or the restaurant what you do, wear the gear, get the car magnet up there, and just start selling from day one. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And, the product is not going to sell itself. You have to get in there, stick your foot in the door, and say hello. So that's why we really focus on day one of building that sales foundation. The next one is a hiring mistake. With our business, the owner operators can actually be the one to teach the lessons and demo the lessons. And so we really have to work carefully on when to hire the teachers, when to make them full-time, how to staff the lessons, and work. And this is a learning process for us too. When you hit X amount of classes, you need to have Y amount of teachers. And that could differ from person to person depending on how involved they want to be in the day-to-day of the business. And then lastly is not following the system. I'll do it my way. I'll try this thing. You guys teach chess. Maybe I'll teach, this game as well. And, we've been doing this for 16 years now. And let's start with what we know is to be true. And then if you're receiving feedback based on your specific location, because things in Tulsa might be different than they are in New York City or Los Angeles, where we have a big owned and operated presence, let's talk that through together and understand how we can optimize the product to fit in your market. And so, yeah, we also see, and I heard this from Cal also, that mistakes, if you are working closely with your franchisee, mistakes are opportunities. They're opportunities to learn, to do a better job, and as a franchisor, to receive that feedback and say, okay, this is a mistake that we made, or this is a mistake that you made because of of something that we told you, and we can now optimize our training and make it better for the next batch.
Yeah, no, I love how all three of you really blend the human elements of training and interaction, and again, pulling those patterns out and trying to address them very intimately with, John, what you highlighted, some of the technology changes. I mean, we've had a 350 unit franchisor who, was very successful, and a franchisee said, we need a new CRM. We need a new CRM. And I'll never forget when Josh said, go break what we gave you.
Yeah.
Right? Do so much volume that it can't handle it. Go figure out the specialty product thing, where if we're doing all these extra jobs and you can't get the notes right and it's costing a lot of time, we'll be happy to tell the whole system you're a hero and we're moving on to this other thing because we've determined this. But we got to work through what we have, right? We don't want to jump to try everything for everybody. And Cal, I think, again, I love the dynamic between a service business and a product business and a brick and mortar business versus a mobile business. When you think about sort of standardization, balancing that, right, with flexibility, what these markets look like, what a unit looks like. When the onboarding in Washington at a store, you've got some stores that are really small and super unique performers. You've got food trucks, but then you've got larger full service operations too, right? And so when we think about what the onboarding is for a franchisee with a different background or in a different market, how do you balance that sort of standardization of what the Cascadia experience is with obviously the flexibility in their market?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's in large part is being able to make things dissectable. And I think we've extracted the best parts of wood-fired cooking and in particular, restaurateuring, and really tried to make them dissectable and easier to understand and comprehend. And so, we're never going to be 200 for 200. We always we should have ordered a few more green peppers on this order. There's so much from an inventory, logistics, operation standpoint. We're never going to be 1,000%. I think sometimes we get in the way of fighting for perfection, and it's okay. It's a part of the process. And on that next order, you're going to get green pepper. So I think it's knowing where we're at in the process, almost compartmentalizing some of the phases of growth that we're going to go through so that we can focus on just that one restaurant that day and make it 5% better. Or we can focus on this food truck event, this big catering for a Fortune 500 company we have, and make that as good as possible. And that's going to introduce more customers to the product. It's going to drive traffic back to the brick and mortar. So I think it's giving our franchise partners actionable items that they can work on without worrying maybe about all of the other concepts that are at play, and just really keeping it simple, keeping the process and the execution of it as simple as possible, which by nature is difficult to do in restaurants. But yeah, I think we see the whole picture, and they don't necessarily need to see it yet, but by going through the process effectively and well, they will get to where we all want them to be at the end of the day.
Yeah. John, I know you have some international locations where there's a brick and mortar element, but that's not what we're offering in other markets, right? Talk a little bit about how you guys think about that standardization versus flexibility in your offering.
Yeah, I think I thought about this question a lot, and I think, spoiler, Brian sent them to us before we had an opportunity to talk, so we had a little bit of time to prepare. And I think what I came to is we standardize what we think drives results, and we're flexibility where specific local knowledge is important. And as you mentioned, we do have some international franchises, but even in the States, the difference between what a family needs in the Upper East Side of Manhattan versus Orlando, Florida are vastly different. And we have no way of knowing that, given that our company is located in Brooklyn. So what we feel is needs to be standardized, and we need to relay to the franchisee is our product. And we view our product as specifically our curriculum, our proprietary curriculum, which is our stories, our methodology, but our product is also how we train our teachers. We take them through Storytime University, a lot of universities in this call, and we train them on how to engage with children, how to be friendly, how to take everything that one would think about chess education and smash it on the ground and be the opposite. Be a bubbly, bright, engaging person and also teach chess. And so if we standardize the vehicle which delivers it, which is the tutor, and our awesome proprietary empathetic story curriculum, and then we allow flexibility in how it's delivered locally. In New York, private lessons, very, very big. In other parts of the country, parents may not be used to having a tutor come into their home once a week, and it may be more done in a YMCA or a library. And so we want to work with our local partner. And Anna mentioned this also a little bit as well, with kind of what is going to drive the most revenue given their specific location. And something we are doing is constantly looking at the things that all of our franchises are doing. Overseas in Singapore, it's very much the brick and mortar model. And how can we adapt that and pull from that and learn that so that we can offer those same things to our franchises as they're growing here in the United States?
Yeah. Now, Anna, he teed you up perfectly there. How do you think about, especially in a lifestyle business, right, where folks do get a little more play by the nature of the business, right? I'm going all in on this. I'm buying 5 territories and I'm quitting my job, or I'm adding this to what I'm currently doing.
It's a mix. I mean, I think with all of our franchisees, when they start, they are mostly starting pretty small. But, we have now got franchisees who've got 3 territories. And I think that's, it's one step at a time, isn't it? We're not getting, when we don't see people who've got that big level of investment who just go, right, all in, I want to buy this entire area. That's not really how it works. And our territories are very much based on experience. They're based on child population of an area. It tends to be the sort of, one step at a time, make sure it works, make sure this fits with my life, my other things that are going on. And I always say to people, your franchise journey often tracks your life journey. So when franchisees start, they might have, 2 little ones still at home and haven't even gone to school yet. So they're juggling nursery hours and the business. And then the children go to school and suddenly the daytime hours are there and available. Then they go to secondary school, high school. And again, it's like opens up more opportunities. So, we absolutely see that life stage of the franchisee mapping what's going on a personal level, which can be different from some other franchises when you're talking about a lifestyle franchise, especially when people are working with young children. But yeah, we're seeing huge success now with additional territory purchases and growth of a team and that sort of thing. But that's never really a day one thing for us. And there are very few franchisees, I think, who come to us with that as their sort of objective. I think this is their first step into the business world. And I think, we absolutely recognize that. We wouldn't have it any other way. This is their first step, but actually then to see how their business acumen, their confidence, their ability, all of those things grow over time is fantastic. And then they go, yeah, do you know what? I've done brilliantly in this territory. I want that next door one. And then they, replicate that success that they've had in that area. But yeah, that never really, no one really, very few, if nobody comes in with that initially.
Yeah. And it's great that you can, to your point, scale them up, bring them to that, wind them down, reposition them, right? Sort of meet them where they are. They're on their own entrepreneurial journey. It's going to take their own time to build that out. So, Cal, I want to go back to you because I think, now that we know everyone has a university and this initial onboarding is amazing across these 3 brands, which is not the case for every brand. I mean, we're saying it in jest, but it is truth. When you think about that early success and ramp that is outside of training, right? I come to visit, I make how many pizzas? I mean, tell us a little bit about Woodfired University. And then I leave and I'm like, I'm going to be the best at this. It's going to be awesome. And inevitably, that maybe isn't the case when you're just kicking off, right? So how do you think about the ongoing support element and ensuring those franchisees are, not just front loaded, but really see a continuous investment from you as a franchisor?
Yeah, such a good question. And I really enjoyed hearing Anna talk about, the different maturation stages of the franchise journey and watching them grow. I think it's so much fun as a franchisor to just watch these amazing people that took a leap of faith succeed. And that feeling of them coming back to buy another territory is like, that's the best feeling in the world. And that really validates everything you're doing and, you know, your mission. But yeah, I think it's managing the highs and lows of business ownership. And so often these are people's first foray into business ownership, and it's tough. And there's a lot of factors to consider. And so I think keeping on track with hitting goals and objectives, and we talked about it earlier in this, but being very intentional about what those goals or objectives, and then putting everything on the table in an effort to get there. 80% of our franchise partners at Cascadia had no prior food experience before, you know, ever signing up to be a Cascadia franchisee. And so that's a much different, you know, training regimen set for somebody who's never sold food before. And I come back to it so much, but catering the right training for that individual person to help fill in any gaps or weaknesses, and then just being very intentional about setting those objectives and goals and making sure we're in direction to hitting those, and managing those highs and lows that we know are so vicious and tough in the early phases of launching a business. But, you know, by virtue of us being in that same position, those same shoes of managing those highs and lows, gives us a lot of confidence that if we trust the process, if we see it through, we will be very happy with the results.
Yeah. Anna, similar to, you know, what John described, you have a unique curriculum. It's part of what you guys bring to someone so that they're able to teach this specific way, these specific languages to that population. How do you think about sort of ongoing training and support compared to that initial sort of front-loading investment?
Yeah, I think the ongoing is even more important, really, because I think there's you do a lot up to day one, and then they hit day one, and then the reality of getting out there, running the business, marketing sort of hits. And that's not to say they forget everything that's gone before. They absolutely don't. But there's the theory up to day one, there's the reality after day one, I think. And then it varies very much by franchisee and their experience. Some literally, you know, hit the ground running, they're off, they're making the contacts with the local schools, the nurseries, the parent communications, and they're flying, and they will turn back to us as and when that sort of additional support is needed, or they can dip into the whole sort of resource base and the online learning that they've already done. Others will be more tentative, and you tend to find out pretty quickly, a couple of weeks, when at the first sort of check-in, and they're like, yeah, I've got that on my to-do list, but I haven't quite got around to it. And you're like, okay, you know, I know what you're feeling here. I know you're feeling anxious. This feels like a really big thing. Let's go through it step by step. So I think it's that, you know, it's the one-to-one coaching that can really help in those circumstances. We also do regular get-togethers, virtual ones. So it might be that we do a bit of a knowledge share session, because we've got such a wealth of experience and expertise within the franchise. It's brilliant to be able to pinpoint somebody and go, right, this person is going to talk about, you know, approaching schools, how to convert that particular element of the business. So, you know, we showcase that individual, and they can then spread that knowledge to the other franchisees. And then we have an annual get together. We have our big annual conference where we have a lot of fun, but also a lot of learning as well. But, you know, throughout those 12 months of the year, there's, you know, probably 12 regular sessions that we would run, which are about all different aspects. We might get an outside expert in. It might be a financial expert, for example, who comes in to share their expertise. But we're constantly topping up that level of knowledge, and responding to what people are asking for. You know, if there's a lot of people feeling anxious about a certain area, or feel that they're really not knowledgeable enough, or the system isn't quite working, you know, it's a constant review process, isn't it? With any business, you can't sit still and just go, no, that's how we do it, you know. But it's really responding to what they need within the business and the knowledge that they need to grow and develop.
No, that's really insightful. And, you know, John, again, I know your co-founder, Harlan. I know when that guy gets on a plane and comes to see me for a few weeks, I'm like, this is amazing. And then when Harlan goes home, how do you guys balance the same sort of dynamic with your franchisees?
Yeah, when parents ask me about why their children should play chess, I often tell them that learning how to play chess is good. It's important. Playing chess for an hour a week, every single week, is where the profound benefits of chess lie. That is where you will start seeing students improve their grades. You will see the executive function and the critical thinking skills really blossom. you will see the social emotional regulation develop with children. And it's very much analogous to franchise training. Putting Harlan on a plane and sitting down with someone, that's really great. And that is going to build a ton of confidence for the franchisee. However, the act of meeting weekly, problem solving with the person, going through the KPIs, understanding where they're succeeding, where they're missing, encouraging them to do their sales calls, encouraging them to talk through their hiring. The act of playing the business, like chess, is where the business is really going to succeed and execute successfully. So it's not like we over-index one over the other, but our job as the franchisor is to ensure our franchisee as best as we can, the franchisee's success. And that means regularly meeting with them, engaging with them, and actively problem solving with them so that they can meet all of their goals.
Yeah, no, I love that analogy. That must resonate very well with folks as you're walking them through, right? They're exactly working through the plan, just like they're going to go teach other people. That's great. We're coming near the end here. I want to make sure we leave some time for questions. But Anna, one came to me, as we were kicking around earlier this week and getting acquainted. You've seen so many franchisees through your system and at all different stages, as we keep, highlighting. What are some of the indicators you've come to notice where a franchisee might struggle, right? And maybe that's a reason you decide that they shouldn't be a franchisee, and you have that conversation. That's a different hard conversation. Maybe it's somebody who is a franchisee and life happens, right? And you notice that they're beginning to tail off and struggle. And, how do you decide as a franchisor when and how to intervene? What are some of those things you do to support when those come up?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Brian. I think, it's the level of engagement, isn't it? You get that if you've got a regular conversation with the franchisees, and there's an open door policy, which we very much have, you really start to feel when they've gone off the boil, I guess is the expression I'd use. And that's okay. They can go a little bit off the boil, but if they really start to lose the passion for the business. And I think ours is very much a business led by passion. All of our teachers, all of our franchisees, they're all linguists. They're not all necessarily native speakers, but a lot are. So we've got a lot of Spanish speaking franchisees from South America, from Spain, French speakers from around the globe. So, languages is part of their lifeblood. So we've got, they're very passionate and very driven about what they do. And I think when that starts to diminish a little bit, that's when the conversations start about, okay, where do you see this going? What's the exit strategy? What can we help you work towards that's going to be a successful outcome for you? And that might be that actually it's just stepping back from the actual teaching, the hands-on, and it's about managing and growing a team. It might be it's the time for them to sell, and it's it can be a hard conversation, I think, for both parties to have. But you've got to have those conversations, and I think you've got to have them when you start to see those indicators on a real micro level, rather than when they start appearing as problems. You can never avoid the problems. I think it'd be naive to think you're never going to come across those problems and things that hit you, blindside you, and just like, I had no idea that person felt like that or was at that stage. I think that's human nature, that's going to happen. But I think if you can pick up on those signs early on, just, it's not always big things, is it? It's just things people either aren't engaging with stuff as much as they used to, or there's certain phrases they're using where you're like, yeah, they never would have said that before. So I think it's just really taking the temperature of each business, as much as you can, and having those conversations about, okay, where do you see this going now? How can we support you in it going either to the next stage for you, or looking at changing your role, or actually looking at, is this the time where the business is doing brilliantly, moving on before your passion drops so much that there isn't such a saleable asset there for you.
Yeah. No, thinking about the franchisee's long-term value, it's an important part, right? They're building a business that should serve them somehow. If they need to resell it, if they need to, help you find someone who will be a fit, but also work with you well ahead of that point. So, John, I'd love your perspective, obviously, too, with an international presence. I think you could see a lot of the similarities to what Anna's describing, but how do you guys think about, where to intervene and balancing some of those, different potential struggle points that you see, certainly ramping the business?
Yeah, I just want to say hanging out with British people is always my favorite because I get to add new idioms to my quiver. So gone off the boil is definitely something my wife is going to tire of me saying over the next week. So thank you for that, Anna. My kids will be constantly going off the boil this week, I'm sure. But so I mean, this is a great question and something that I think we think about a lot. We try not to let lagging indicators lead us, but rather be proactive. So especially in franchising, being an expert, having been in it for four or 5 months now, I imagine it can get pretty easy, like looking at revenue as an indicator as to how the franchise is doing. And I think if you are just looking at revenue there, that's probably a problem, because it's only telling what happened rather than how you can proactively fix something. So when we're coaching our franchisees, we're looking for like the more of the leading indicators. What is your outreach? What are you doing for sales and conversions? Are you booking demos? Are the demos being well received? Let's not overthink things. Let's like get out there and actually be proactive rather than trying to perfect things. And so that is when we're thinking about it, we're constantly looking at what are the measurable KPIs that we can build a dashboard around with our franchisees to understand how the business is going to perform before we sit down and look at the revenue indicators. And I think constantly thinking about building a strategy around that will lead to less surprises as the franchisor and lead to more productive and healthy relationships with the franchisee.
Yeah. Look, they often say, right, perfect is the enemy of progress. And I think those early franchisees probably see and feel that more than even those established folks, right, where they're telling you what maybe some of those indicators are or could be or should be as the system continues to grow. Cal, how about for you guys?
Yeah, so much of it is being proactive instead of reactive and creating the kind of relationship where we can speak openly and transparently. And I think it's pretty obvious when there is a problem or something is off, and maybe it goes outside of your normal weekly phone call or just check-ins. And I think it gets really noticeable really quickly if you let it fester. Our thing has always been running towards problems, no problems, only solutions, and just being as proactive as possible to get in front of it. And I encourage at the very start of this journey, I like having tough conversations, and I'd rather know about it on the front end. Hey, how can we help? And how can we create, if the system's hurting you and it's creating negatives, how can we help? I think is the key point there.
Yeah. In a similar way to John, I know your partners, Cal, and between the three of you, somebody is probably able to address what those issues are, what those things you're facing are, and how you've overcome them in the past, or will continue to address them from the food to actually the business or any of the other matters that come up. So it's important to do that.
So we'll already have a few questions. Maybe we can switch to Q&A if you're okay. Yeah, we already have a few questions. So first questions, what programs do you use for your franchisee training? Any specific tools, or what would you recommend? Who wants to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So we a lot of it, because there's, like Brian was just talking about, we have a lot of different departments that need individual time training and going through the process of Wood-Fired University. Wood-Fired University for us is front end and back end training. So we use Monday.com, which has been a really great kind of workforce planning, being able to assign different objectives, different assignments kind of internally for us. It works really well with our different departments. That has been a huge blessing and life hack for us.
Okay. Anna and John?
That's a greed question. We build a lot of tools internally that we use. We have a vibe coder extraordinaire in our company that loves to sit in front of Claude and create amazing tools. But one of the things that we immediately sign someone on to is our Slack channel. We want to get them in a Slack channel with the entire team. So if they have a question about marketing assets, if they have a question about financial reporting, if they have a question about sales and marketing or training, they have direct access to all of those people in our company and can just very easily Slack over a question and get it answered immediately. And so, Cal, you mentioned being proactive and transparent. We want to allow our franchisees at this point. That may change when we have 600 locations. It might be a little, at this point where we are, we want to allow our franchisees to just be able to communicate directly with anyone who they may need to talk to.
Okay, Anna, on your end, how do you do that?
Yeah, so in terms of tools, we've got our bespoke e-learning system, which the franchisees go through before we even have any face-to-face training. That's a really great system. It's a company called iFlourish produce that system, and then there's a license, and then you can completely customize it. And that's a really great flexible tool which people have access to, you know, right from the offset and then ongoing to sort of dip into. So that's a really great training tool. In terms of any others, obviously Smappen, as I've talked about, brilliant mapping tool, but it's not just at day one mapping out the territory. It's, as I said, that knowledge within it of the points of interest, the schools and the nurseries for us, as those are our customers, is really, really great. Our booking partners are really critical for us as well. A lot of our work is individually parent, even though it might happen in a school, it's individually parent booked. So having those booking systems in place is really important for success as well.
Anna, who do you use for your booking platform? I'm curious.
We use a system called Pebble at the moment, which I think is global, if I'm not wrong. Very efficient for things like club booking. So if you're looking at it from a school point of view, it's a really, really good system. I think they're global, but it might
think they're from the UK, but I think they operate globally. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, loads of great systems out there, but you know, and it takes an eternity to look at all of them, doesn't it? And they've all got the pros and cons, but you know, simplicity of getting a parent through that booking system is really good, but also then the back end system for the reporting for our franchisees. So you know, just simple dashboards, you know, business at a glance. You know, see the occupancy rates of different classes, and it's got there are things like great color coding systems, so the red, amber, green, so you can see where are the classes that really need the work, where they're sort of ticking along and where they're absolutely flying, and then being able to do some analysis off the back of why that is the case. Sometimes it's just that's a really big school, that's a really small school, so therefore your pond that you're fishing in, sorry, another idiom, is much smaller. But yeah, it's I think it's making sure that, you know, it's getting the system that's right for your business, isn't it? And you know, how your customers work and what you're trying to achieve with it. But those work really well for us.
Okay, thanks, Anna. So more we have more questions. So actually, Leighton asked even 2 questions, I think. But so I read it. How do you effectively set and manage expectations with new franchisees around the division of responsibilities between the franchisor and franchisee, particularly when it comes to areas like local marketing and business development? I'll also read the second question, 2 in 1. Additionally, how do you address the common misconception that the model is plug and play and instead reinforce the level of ownership, effort, and initiative required to be successful? So 2 in 1. Who wants to answer?
I'll take a stab at this. So we talk about this a lot, and one of the things that we try to do and is start this right during the prospecting phase. We ask them to write up a business plan. We ask them to write up a sales and marketing plan. And we clearly say, you know, we are going to guide you through the execution of your plan. We have suggestions and experience that we have a sales and marketing that works historically. But at the end of the day, you are the one who needs to execute the plan and look at us as more shepherds than you know, the individuals who are going to be executing your plan. This is your business, and you know, it is in our best interest for you to succeed, and that's our job, is to ensure your success. So if you're deviating way off of it, we're going to course correct. But at the end of the day, this is your market, your territory, your plan, and it's our product that you're bringing into that plan. So we start that when we're going through the business development process, and we try to remind them of that throughout the entirety of our relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, I might highlight quickly too. I think when you look at a good disclosure document and you've got your sort of go-to-market strategy with what you're actually selling someone, outlining that there is or is not a brand fund and what's included in that, right? What are the things that from a national perspective on marketing, I always joke in the US, it's your Super Bowl commercial fund, right? Like what are the things that lift everyone, get everyone this amazing access? But to John's point, what are the things in Orlando, Florida that you better do that in Summit, New Jersey don't make sense, right? And so those things are very much bifurcated out, driven by a good learning management tool, by an operations platform, and some of those resource, library materials that Anna alluded to earlier.
And I have a specific question for Calvin. So you mentioned 80% of your franchisees have never been in the food business previously. So how have those 80% performed versus the 20 other who have had previous food experience?
Yeah, they're doing really well. Yeah, it's crazy because a couple of those franchisees were customers of ours. So that's a lot in a lot of these instances how they got familiar with the product and fell in love with the product. And that's a really fun journey from customer to franchise partner. And in particular, the couple that just launched out of Arizona is just this great family. They were customers of ours in Western Washington. They moved with their family out to Arizona. No prior food experience, no prior business ownership experience. And a couple months in, and they are doing extremely well. We're working on getting that food truck booked. And, they brought so much energy, and, oftentimes working with people in the food industry, it's, they don't have bad habits that we might possibly need to reverse coming from a food background. It's, we're starting fresh with that positivity and good energy. And it's really fun to help people become good business owners, but good restaurant operators in particular for us. And that is a really fun, rewarding journey for sure.
Okay, interesting. And another question from Paul again. So would you prefer, it's more about franchisee recruitment, but would you prefer awarding a franchise to an operator who currently has a complementary franchise in that same territory, or to a new franchisee who is new to franchising, but their sole focus is on your brand? Anna, what's your...
Yeah, I think it's
this?
relatively unlikely that would be the situation with our business. But yes, so yeah, if someone was doing a relatively similar thing in our area, then no, we wouldn't want to take them on as a franchisee. But it's never arisen so far. That's not to say obviously the situation couldn't. But yeah, I think someone starting afresh is very much our approach.
Brian, maybe you have an overview on that with your experience.
I think it's a really thoughtful question, because we see this a lot in let's say home services, right? Where somebody is a rock star at managing a certain kind of crew. They're in landscaping, they have 3 trucks, they know a territory already. It looks and feels a lot like the mosquito and bug management. It looks and feels like the fertilizer that comes to the house. It looks and feels like the gutter cleaning or the power washing, right, that you might be doing in a certain market. And so if I'm looking at my landscaping business going, I've got these great guys, they know how to work for me. I'm Brian, a rockstar franchisee, but it snows in my market for 4 months a year. How do I add snow plowing? How do I add, some of these other services? So I think in that way, where the service offering is so different from the core, right? I wouldn't want to, potentially be selling into the same school, to Anna's point, competing with myself. But if I'm looking at a neutral customer base and saying their product need has changed, right? We see this a lot in food too. You might be a great operator of something that is not pizza, and it's not maybe quick service. But if you want to get into that part of the market and you want to build out food truck and sort of flex that muscle, and you've already got your own infrastructure running 3, 5, 8 of another, system, you know how to be a franchisee. You know how to cut to the front of the line of entrepreneurship, run that playbook, and we can give you the Cascadia playbook, and you're going to be a rock star. So I think it's more about product fit than it is about market fit necessarily, and certainly making sure that there's a demand for it from those same customers.
Interesting. So maybe one last question. So everyone talked about universities. So that was a common point you had. And the question is, from Mary, what is the distinction between an initial training and a university?
University sounds cooler. Proprietary. Yeah, I mean that's my. It sounds fun. It's coming to Storytime Chess University. But for us, and maybe it's different for Calvin and Anna, our Storytime Chess University is essentially just initial ops training of how to run the business.
Yeah, I often like. Oh, sorry. No, I often like the university vernacular because it is cute, it's fun, it's endearing. You can wear the logoed stuff that we're all, representing our brands, and that makes you feel good and a part of something bigger. But let's take that analogy a step further and say you go back next year, you're a junior, you're not a sophomore, you're auditing a class to learn something new. Like, there are things that, as Anna alluded to, with having an annual convention for your franchisees that are to your benefit as a franchisee. Some franchisors say you have to go to those, right? Some make it optional, it depends. But man, we should want people to get there. We should want them to continue learning. And so I think the university sort of vernacular really points to the fact that this is not a one-time in, one-time out. You don't come make 200 pizzas at Cascadia for 10 days, give them to some of these other community partners they have in the homeless shelter and in the firehouse and in the police department, and then go back to your community and hope you remember everything, right? You have to stay engaged. And I think that's part of what draws somebody back into really knowing there's a curriculum, again, pun intended, kind of behind what you've been learning.
Yeah, we actually give a certificate that says, congratulations, I just graduated Wood-Fired University. So yeah, to your point.
That's cool.
You need to make graduation caps that look like pizzas where they can move.
I like that even better, John.
I love that.
I love it.
Okay, well, I think it's time. It's time now to go to the conclusion. So, thank you all for joining us. I think we've been through all the questions. So, if you have further questions or would like to continue the conversation, feel free. I think the easiest maybe to contact Anna, John, Calvin, Brian, or myself through LinkedIn. We'll be sending out the replay shortly, so feel free to share it. The next masterclass will be held next month in April. The topic will be talking money to potential franchisees. So stay tuned and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.